a cloud when there's no one around. Oh yeah, just like Pagliacci did.
Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. I didn't change my trip code. I didn't change my zip code, but I'm about to go into let it rip mode. So let's let it rip. Keep in mind, I always read through these one time first. So if you want to skip through to my analysis, just click on the timestamp below. Here we go. Post 1831, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 12 o'clock EDT. Does POTUS make statements that are false? Knowing what you know now. Then we have in brackets, start at 12 o'clock. A link to a YouTube link. Think Haiti, 1440 in brackets. Think Watergate Commission. In brackets, removed _y_ investigate. Listen very carefully. Truth, surrounded by evil. Never stop praying. Where we go one, we go all. Q. Post 1832, 15 minutes after the hour of 11 EST, 12 o'clock EDT. Responding to an Anon, HRC has taken a number of villages from Haiti. And we get this link from an older Q post from back in March. So much is open source, so much left to be connected. Why are the children in Haiti in high demand? How are they smuggled out? Adoption process. Local staging ports friendly to CF. Track donations. Cross against location relative to Haiti. Think logically. The choice to know will be yours. Q. Here's another one from March 6, adding on to that. Who are we taught to trust the most? This will not be easy. The end. Q. And Q adds on, reread drops regarding Haiti. At some point, it will not be safe for them to walk down the street. Pure evil. How many in Washington and those around the world in power worship the devil? Conspiracy, fake news, the world is watching. Q. Post 1833, 40 minutes after the hour of 11, we get this right here, this graphic that says this is just a small list of things requiring ID but not considered racist. And then there's a bunch of things right there. We'll talk about it later. Here's a link to the Hill. This all revolves around removing Nunes. California, New York, notorious voter fraud, controlled and coordinated by corrupt, and then in brackets, plus so-called volunteers, state officials, logical thinking. Why are Ds opposed to implementing voter ID law? Q. Post 1834, 44 minutes after the hour of 11 EST, they never thought she would lose. Now they all lose. Q+. Post 1835. 24 minutes after the hour of 1, we are under heavy attack. A, B, C in brackets took control. Trip code compromised. Number 131 last. Trip code update coming. Post 1836, 26 minutes after the hour of 1 p.m. New trip confirmed. PF, that'd be Patriots Fight Board, safe. Q. Post 1837, 35 minutes after the hour of 1. Patriots, we are under extreme in brackets, heavy attack by 3 in brackets, intel agencies, foreign and domestic, also in brackets. We are in communication coordination with necessary divisions. Stay strong, stay together. Q. Post 1838, 43 minutes after the hour of 1, we have a code AB-AKD and EGH281Q 282-183-821-281-72391U721. Distress. Check in. And then we've got 00, looks like midnight plus 37209-A271927. Brackets dash brackets again 381-937-821 end brackets root T Q. Post 1839. 44 minutes after the hour of 1 p.m. EST packet HDQ-73092173992Q. And post 1840, 15 minutes after the hour of 3 Eastern Standard Time. Fishing is fun. Fish in brackets. These people are stupid. Q. All right, let's take you back to the beginning. Because if I took you to the end, we'd be done already. Be a lame video. Does POTUS make statements that are false? Well, to be fair, you've been wrong, POTUS. But false statements makes me think that you're purposely saying something false. So I'm going to go with probably no. I can't think of any. Knowing what you know now. Well, what do I know now?
The issue of going to confession, or as Hilary calls it, the 4th of July weekend with FBI Director Comey. Now, I'm told Hilary went to confession before tonight's event. But the priest was having a hard time when he asked her about her sins, and she said she couldn't remember 39 times. Nah. Hilary is so corrupt. She got kicked off the Watergate Commission. How corrupt do you have to be to get kicked off the Watergate Commission? Pretty corrupt. Hilary is and has been in politics since the 70s. What's her pitch? The economy is busted. The government's corrupt. Washington is failing. Vote for me. I've been working on these problems for 30 years. I can fix it, she says. I wasn't really sure if Hilary was going to be here tonight, because I guess you didn't send her invitation by email. Or maybe you did, and she just found out about it through the wonder of WikiLeaks.
God dog burn, Hilary. Then Q says, think Haiti 1440.
Everyone knows, of course, after all, in places like Haiti, where she's taken a number of them. Thank you. I don't know, and I don't want this evening without saying something nice about my opponent. Hilary has been in Washington a long time. She knows a lot about how government works. And according to her sworn testimony, Hilary has forgotten more things than most of us will ever know.
Yeah, burn. Well, call me biased, but I like watching now President Trump bagging on Hillary Clinton, who is not president and likely never will be. Gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. But he's not exactly wrong, is he? Q says, does POTUS make statements that are false? Not about that, for sure, at least. And there's a lot of things we could say about Haiti, but I think it's fair to say that the country of Haiti pretty much got bamboozled by the Clintons. And this has been going on for years. Hillary Clinton's brother had a gold mine operation out there in Haiti. They've been really ripping this country off for quite a while, but it really got into the public knowledge when we had the arrest of this Laura Silsby, who you see on the screen. Now, if you're not familiar with this story, do me a favor, please watch this video here called Connecting a Crisis. It's dated June 10th, one of my videos that I did on Haiti, because we're not going to go way into it. But this was the lady that busted it wide open. Her name was Laura Silsby. She was arrested trafficking 33 kids out of Haiti into the Dominican Republic, and she was arrested with another group of people who all ended up getting, they got let go, but she got left behind. And then it was Bill Clinton at the time who swooped in and saved her, which showed an obvious connection there and an obvious interest to protect something. And you can see some of these in the WikiLeaks emails. Now, she's changed her name. She's married, and she's now Laura Gaylor. And then she became the VP of Alert Sense, which is Amber Alert, the very people that go looking for missing kids. Now, I'm not so sure she's with them anymore, but that was where she went on, okay? And so we were just talking about this very kind of situation for those who like to call us QAnon knuckleheads, conspiracy theorists. It's not so baseless when you see something like this, Q providing us with the Clinton Foundation number and it leading to a human trafficking foundation. Doesn't seem so strange considering what we know to be true in the past. So that's all I'm going to do as far as going into Haiti. But if you want to look into it, please watch the video, or there's lots of information regarding Haiti. And we've talked about it for some months and in some other videos as well too. Now Q says, think Watergate Commission. We're over here on WND.com from back in 2008. Let's talk a little bit about Watergate. Details of Hillary Clinton's firing from the House Judiciary Committee staff for unethical behavior as she helped prepare articles of impeachment against Richard Nixon have been confirmed by the panel's chief Republican counsel. Franklin Polk backed up major claims by Jerry Zeifman, the general counsel and chief of staff of the House Judiciary Committee who supervised Clinton's work on the Watergate investigation in 1974, reported columnist Dan Calabrese in a column republished by WND. Zeifman, a lifelong Democrat, called Clinton a liar and an unethical, dishonest lawyer. He contends Clinton was collaborating with allies of the Kennedys to block revelation of Kennedy administration activities that made Watergate look like a day at the beach. Her brief, Zeifman said, was so fraudulent and ridiculous she would have been disbarred if she had submitted it to a judge. Polk confirmed Clinton wrote a brief arguing Nixon should not be granted legal counsel due to a lack of precedent. But Clinton deliberately ignored the then recent case of Supreme Court Justice William O. Douglas, who was allowed to have a lawyer during the impeachment attempt against him in 1970. Moreover, Zeifman claims Clinton bolstered her fraudulent brief by removing all the Douglas files from public access and storing them at her office, enabling her to argue as if the case never existed. Polk confirmed the Clinton memo ignored the Douglas case, but he could not confirm or dispel the claim that Hillary removed the files. Okay, so this was basically at the time just considered a claim. But the guy making the claim, like it says here, he was the general counsel, chief of staff. He was the one that fired her. And let me take you down here. Zeifman told the columnist he fired Clinton because she was a liar. She was an unethical, dishonest lawyer, Zeifman said. She conspired to violate the Constitution, the rules of the House, the rules of the committee, and the rules of confidentiality. Sounds like the Clinton that we know. Zeifman said Clinton collaborated with several individuals, including Marshal Special Counsel John Doerr and Senior Associate Special Counsel Bernard Nussbaum, who later became counsel in the Clinton White House. Their aim, he said, was the seemingly implausible scheme to deny Nixon the right to counsel during the investigation. The Kennedy allies, Zeifman said, feared putting Watergate break-in mastermind E. Howard Hunt on the stand to be cross-examined by the president's counsel. Hunt, according to Zeifman, had evidence of nefarious activities by President John F. Kennedy's administration, including purportedly using the mafia to attempt to assassinate Cuban dictator Fidel Castro. Okay, so we've got Clinton back in the day holding off on more evidence. Sounds exactly like our Clinton. Well, what would they have been protecting? What would all those nefarious activities have been? We're on a site called Pedophiles Down Under, entitled Watergate Was Pedogate. This was written on June 8th, 2018. And it just says by author here, but down at the bottom, it says it's an excerpt from Eyes Wide Open, an Australian experience of CIA child trafficking by Fiona Barnett. Now, this is a great story here, and we're not going to cover it all, although I do suggest this for a read, and I will leave the link down below. But in the beginning, it kind of talks about her experience of this Fiona as a victim of pedophilia, and a lot of sort of famous people that she had stories about, and her basically her journey trying to get her story out to the media, and how nobody really wanted to really take her story on. She had right here, she's talking about her testimony against Anthony Kidman, who is the father of famed actress Nicole Kidman. And she's talking to different journalists regarding the CIA's involvement in drugs and weapons, which is well known. And of course, this particular journalist agrees. And then she says, well, then it's so hard to imagine they are also involved in trafficking children, which is far more lucrative than guns and drugs. And this is when the journalist kind of backed off. And that's sort of what this part of the story is talking about. It goes on to talk about lots of other people that she is mentioning, names that she's mentioning, including her ordeal with this Anthony Kidman. And then it starts to kind of morph into the Pedogate, excuse me, I was going to say Pizzagate, Pedogate, and all that kind of related information. Now, of course, when we start talking about Pedogate, we end up getting back into Clinton again, don't we? And she mentions them too. Bill and Hillary's trafficking network implicated her campaign chairman, John Podesta. Podesta and his brother Tony were staying in a villa owned by UK politician Sir Clement Freud near British child Madeleine McCann, where she disappeared in Portugal. Clement was Sigmund Freud's grandson, who was outed in a mainstream British media as a pedophile. John and Tony Podesta perfectly matched the identikit images Scotland Yard released of Madeleine's abductors. And then so it goes on to talk again about Pedogate, and we know a lot about that stuff too, but if you don't, this is a great article to talk about it. And, it mentions a lot of the Clintons' relations in that. They had sort of a nonprofit organization that was right near that Comet Pizza. And what I really want to get to is this guy right here, where the quote was at the top by this NYPD detective, James Rothstein. And you'll see his quote here at the top. The Watergate break-in was strictly based on one thing: the pedophile records that were being kept at the Democratic National Headquarters. Well, how would this detective James Rothstein know? Well, according to this article, it says the Pedogate ring, he explained, was the same network he investigated for 35 years. And then it goes on to explain some of his ordeal trying to nail some of these pedophiles. And let's take you right here. James Rothstein was alerted to an identical VIP pedophile ring operating in the UK when British intelligence consulted him regarding the Profumo affair. MI6 agents visited Rothstein in New York to extract what he knew about British politicians and other VIPs having sex with child prostitutes. This was part of their effort to cover up the true pedophile nature of the Profumo scandal. Okay, so this guy was investigating these crimes for a really long time. What does that have to do with Watergate? Well, in 1972, Rothstein arrested one of the 5 Watergate burglars, CIA operative Frank Sturgis. During a subsequent 2-hour interrogation, he discovered the truth about Watergate. The burglars sought something they nicknamed the Book, which listed the Democrat and Republican politicians who accessed child prostitutes, their sexual proclivities, the amounts they paid to rape kids, and such. The official Watergate explanation is that the Republicans broke into the Democratic National Committee headquarters to obtain information about their election strategies. People who lived through Watergate typically commented with a frown that never made sense. Rothstein's experiences make better sense of why Nixon conspired to quash the Watergate investigation, why he suggested the investigation posed a threat to national security, why his personal secretary destroyed Oval Office tape recordings after they were subpoenaed, and why his own vice president issued a pardon which protected him from prosecutions for any crimes he had committed or may have committed or taken part in as president. If Nixon's crimes included pedophilia, that would make perfect sense. I am confident President Richard Nixon and his good buddy, the Reverend Billy Graham, were named in the Watergate pedophile records because I was sex trafficked to both men as a young child. When I spoke with James Rothstein, he said he had not heard that Nixon was a pedophile, but that he certainly knew from multiple victims Reverend Billy Graham was a rampant pedophile. Rothstein also told me that during his investigations, he became aware of an identical child sex trafficking ring in Australia involving prime ministers. Although he never directly investigated him himself, he said Peter Osborne, who worked in Australian intelligence, knew the details. He also confirmed that Australian politicians and other VIPs attended international child brothels. Brothels. So as you can see, this is a big article, and there's a lot packed into it, and it really is some powerful stuff. And we don't have time to go into all of it, but you can see this Rothstein guy was back around at the same time, and it looks like we're almost going through the same thing. We're talking about protecting this book during this Watergate, the book and the tapes, right? And we're talking about servers, but it's essentially kind of holding a lot of the same information, isn't it? And it kind of gives us some insight, if this is all true, as to why Hillary Clinton is so arrogant in the first place. After all, she pulled it off once. She probably figured she could pull it off again. Q says, truth surrounded by evil. Never stop praying. Where we go one, we go all. Well, there's not too much more evil in the world than people who harm children, as far as I'm concerned. Let's move on to 1832. HRC has taken a number of villages from Haiti. And then Q takes us back to these posts from March 6. So much is open source, so much left to be connected. Why are the children in Haiti in high demand? Well, like I told you earlier, because they're basically worth more than drugs or guns, because you can sell them over and over. As terrible as that sounds, that's exactly what their thought process is. How are they smuggled out? They use the adoption process. All these different adoption agencies that take these kids that are from broken homes. They're either sent there because of natural disasters or some sort of chaos in their homes, and they smuggle them out, and then they get them on these basically freight shipping, and they take them to ports around the world, where Q goes on to say here, local staging ports friendly to CF. And once again, if you haven't seen this video, please take a look at this video, Connecting a Crisis. The link is down below. Track donations. Yeah, so many donations going into all these quote-unquote humanitarian foundations that end up in these ravaged countries, whether it's by war, natural disaster, or whatnot. And they take advantage of all that displacement. And they bring their medical supplies, and they bring their drugs, and they bring their diseases that the drugs cure. And then they keep their boats parked offshore, their FEMA boats. And under the guise of humanitarian work. They bring all these people onto these boats and you never see from them again. And keep in mind, you can't scan these big shipping boats. And that's why they're able to pull it off and get them around to ports around the country and in other places around the world as well too. Cross against location relative to Haiti. Think logically, the choice to know will be yours. And then Q says, who are we to talk to trust the most? This will not be easy. The end. Q. And we've talked about this before. We trust our teachers. We trust our pastors. We trust our parents. And we trust our so-called authority figures. And as you saw in the video where President Trump was talking about Clinton, you saw all these cardinals around. And boy, were their faces beat red. They just hated that he was bagging on the Catholic religion. And of course, the Catholic religion's hands aren't exactly clean in all this either. And we know exactly the kind of evil that has infested the Catholic Church, especially the upper ranks. Now, Q goes on to say here, reread drops regarding Haiti, which we just did. At some point, it will not be safe for them to walk down the street. Yeah, once people finally know about this. We talk a lot about this inward narrative, outward narrative. And in the outward narrative, we're still kind of trying to get through all this FISA stuff, all this stuff that we've rehashed over and over again. And if you've been following QAnon, this isn't new news for you. But if you're still out in the mainstream world, just catching your news every maybe 20 minutes of news after work or something like this, you don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of that. And that's to be expected. And so there's still a lot of people who don't really understand what's at stake here. And so it's easy to have a political opinion. And it's easy to maybe not necessarily want to listen to something like QAnon, because the only time you're catching any wind of QAnon, you're being told it's a conspiracy theory. Meanwhile, we know all about what's going on with the FISA memos, and we know how much deeper this runs. And it won't be until that next level of truth really gets unraveled that I think we're really going to see a paradigm shift around the world when people realize, this wasn't just about spying on the Trump campaign. This is so much bigger. This is not political. Because let's face it, there's too much good in the world for people to not realize that crimes against children are not okay. Pure evil. How many in Washington and those around the world in power worship the devil? I don't know. Probably a lot. My numbers guy, he's on vacation, so I had to get a temp. So, temp guy, how many Washington and those around the world worship the devil? I didn't actually catch the exact number. Sounded like a lot of numbers. New guy's pumped up, okay? It's his first day. He's trying to make a good impression, but it's a big number, okay? I think we get the idea. Washington is very infested with people who worship the devil. Q says conspiracy, fake news, the world is watching. Well, they'd sure like for everyone to think that it's a conspiracy, and that's why all these MSM journalists are going after Q the way they are, because the only way that they can try and sway this is to get people thinking that it's a conspiracy without checking it out for themselves. Because once they do check it out for themselves, they're going to realize that it's no longer a conspiracy theory, and it is just plain and simple a conspiracy. And those people would be fake news. They want the world to think that we're the fake news, but the world is watching. Let's move on. Post 1833. We get this graphic right here entitled DLKHALSHD. This is just a small list of things requiring ID but not considered racist. So you need an ID to purchase alcohol, purchase cigarettes, open a bank account, apply for food stamps, apply for welfare, Medicaid, Social Security, a job, a mortgage, unemployment, a hunting license, a fishing license, to rent a house or an apartment, buy a house or a condo, drive a car, rent a car, buy a car, register a car, rent a hotel, motel, buy an M-rated video game, boarding an airplane, get married, purchase a gun, purchase ammo for a gun, adopt a pet, get a prescription, donate blood, and pawn shop transactions. Seems pretty fair to me. I was actually a little bit surprised about the pawn shop transactions, but once I heard it, I guess it does make sense. Yeah, who knows what you could be buying at the pawn shop. Showing ID to vote is considered racist. How stupid is that? Yeah, pretty stupid. It's a big deal, and it's a privilege. People die for the right to vote. And there's a lot of people around the world that still don't have their right to vote, that would love to have the right to vote. It is something that makes our country the great, great institution that it really is. And so to disrespect it by not having to show an ID. And then Q takes us to this link right here, to the Hill. And this article goes on to talk about Southern California, in particular Orange County. For generations, Orange County has been the bastion of Western conservatism, the foundation on which Republicans such as Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, and Pete Wilson built their statewide campaigns. As recently as 2000, the Republican presidential nominee George W. Bush spent precious time campaigning here. But after Hilary Clinton became the first Democrat to win Orange County since Franklin Roosevelt, Democrats now believe several congressional seats in the Los Angeles suburbs and exurbs are critical to their hopes of reclaiming the House of Representatives this November. They just have to learn how to run a campaign here in districts where the party has not been seriously competitive for decades, and how to overcome roadblocks Republicans have erected in the lead up to the midterm elections. I like how they said that we put up roadblocks. We've never run a top tier, top flight, well-funded professional campaign to win here, said Katie Porter. Well, that sounds like your biggest roadblock, knucklehead, a law professor running against Representative Mimi Waters. Democrats are trying to learn how to build their capacity and fast. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee opened a satellite office at another suburban office park about 15 minutes away from Porter's headquarters, from which it coordinates field programs aimed at knocking on doors in critical districts. Okay, so basically what I'm getting out of this is that they're going after Southern California hard. Why? Because they really, really need it. They want to take out Devin Nunes. And this part of Southern California is just not typically Democratic. And now they're having to resort to such tactics like fair play and knocking on doors and things that are ethical. Imagine that. It must be terrible for them. So I'm going to take you down here. Some Democrats are worried that Republicans may be able to paint them as an ultra-liberal and unacceptable alternative to the party in power. No, I think you guys painted yourselves out to be that way with your crap issues. The same day, Porter, Walter, and Kim advanced in November's midterm elections. Voters recalled State Senator Josh Newman, Democrat, in a district that includes part of Orange, Los Angeles, and San Bernardino counties after Newman voted in favor of the gas tax hike. Yeah, good job. Gas tax. Nice. You guys see why you're losing? So I think you see the point. They're really trying to push hard. And Q has said to watch out for New York and California in particular. This all revolves around removing Nunes. Why? Because Nunes is the one bringing forth the 20-page Whopper with cheese, cheesy, bacony goodness. And all of a sudden, Nunes is public enemy number one. California and New York, notorious voter fraud. Well, of course, California is a massive state, and New York, of course, is very powerful too. But more importantly, lots of crimes committed in New York, right? Controlled and coordinated by corrupt plus so-called volunteers. Yeah, some of these guys are just more Soros kids showing up. They're going to help you make sure you get your poll all squared away. Don't worry, I got you. Hand me your vote, I got you. State officials, logical thinking. Why are D's opposed to implementing voter ID law? Because El Diablo doesn't have an ID. El Pajero doesn't have an ID. So how are they gonna vote? If you put rules and fair play. This must be awful. I think you see what's going on. Winning. Post 1834. Q Plus comes on and says they never thought she would lose. Now they all lose. Well, it's nice to hear from Q Plus. And for those of you who are not quite sure who Q Plus may be, I'll give you 4 or 5 guesses down below. Let's move on. Now, by this point, in between 1834 and 1835, it had appeared that the trip code had been compromised. And Q confirms this here in post 1835, saying we are under heavy attack. ABC took control, and ABC is referring to the alphabet agencies, in particularly the one that begins with C. Trip code compromise number 131 last trip update coming. And the number 131 is referring to post number 131 here on Patriots Fight. Now, the Patriots Fight board is the post only board for Q. And this one was not compromised, which is really the most important because this is the one that Q manages. Only Q's posts go on here, all right? And as you can see right there, number 131 was the previous post. They never thought she would lose. Now they all lose. And so for a while, people had taken control of the trip code and started posting right here on the boards, on whatever boards were receiving this. Now, because I would have been sleeping when a lot of this stuff happened, I didn't necessarily catch how it all resolved, and there might have been a lot of posts that I missed, but a lot of people were posting all over. It was kind of a free-for-all. But I did see this, and as you can see, it's numbered post 1835, and you see this flag here. It's entitled ICS Lima, and at the bottom there, it has a little, what I would assume to be not Q, saying not Q. Now, incidentally, this is the Lima flag. And for those of you sailors who are familiar with the Lima flag, you would know that if you are in harbor, the Lima flag would mean quarantine. And if you are at sea, it means stop your vessel instantly. And so it sounds like somebody was giving a warning. Now, thanks to Neon Revolt, who grabbed a couple of these off of 8chan, because by then 8chan was so flooded, sometimes it gets really hard to grab them. So thanks to Neon Revolt for putting a couple of these together. But as you can see here, testing trip code, hashtag WeAreQQ at T.Anon, T.Anon. It's a bunch of mess right here, okay? This is not Q posting. Trips breach, boys. It's hashtag WeAreQ at Q, and they're giving away the password. Now, this is a pretty easy password. Doesn't seem very strange, right? Patriots Fight is not compromised. AFA, I don't know what that means. A fake? I don't know. Is it just saying that it's a fake? Blacklist ASAP. But you see what's going on, okay? And some of this I don't want to read, but you see that people were having a free-for-all over here on 8chan. In a couple of these posts, you can see that they're trying to direct us to this link to Payspin, which is this right here. An appeal to patriots. I'm scared for my country, and I'm especially scared for you good people who look to this space for guidance. I have seen how my folks are suffering. No one has money. Half of my family is suffering from issues relating to drug abuse. Honest work is getting hard to find for all the ill-connected. I see the accomplishments of my parents and grandparents and wonder how many of my generation are barely holding on, fighting hard to stay in the middle class. Well, this is a long post, but let me just go ahead and sum it up right here. It is my belief that Q is a charlatan. It is my belief that Q is a young, untrained American man who is playing games with your faith, your hope, and your love of country, mostly because he finds it amusing. I believe he may call you to violence, not to save our home, but merely for entertainment. There are many arguments for this, but I will name a few that Q has been gleefully rubbing our noses in since the beginning. First, his name itself, and it goes on to talk about the Department of Energy and everything like that. So I'm not going to go way into it. Just looks like a desperate call. And you see here, the trip codes are given away. Now, this is kind of key because we already knew about the Matlock password. Pretty easy stuff. Freedom, that's a pretty easy password too. So as we go down here, you can see that all these are really easy passwords. Pretty easy ones that I suppose if you really wanted to, you could probably get into. So does that mean that all this time, Q has just been posting some weak passwords? Is that what's going on? Post 1836, we get this. New trip confirmed. Patriots fight safe. Q. And as you can see, it's a new trip code now with 2 exclamation points instead of just 1 in the previous one. And Q is mentioning that Patriots fight board is safe. And of course, like I mentioned, that's the post only board here. And that's really the important one. This is the one that matters for Q. Now, it's interesting. We have this Payspin article that whoever got into 8chan wanted us to look at. Didn't want to pretend to be Q. Wanted us to read this Payspin thing, appealing for us all to give up on Q. And showed the trip codes and showed these super easy passwords, which likely very well could have been true. We already knew that Matlock was a previous password. So now Q comes back on 1837. Patriots, we are under extreme heavy attack by 3 intel agencies, foreign and domestic. We are in comms, coordination with necessary divisions. Stay strong, stay together. Well, this shouldn't be a surprise. This is the last bastion of hope for them, is to be able to attack the boards. And that's why Q has needed their own board. And it's pretty extreme. They're going after it hard. Because we're the ones who really know the truth. No matter how much everything gets ugly in the outside world, we're the ones who've really been following along. And that's why they want to make us seem so crazy. And now the only way that they can do it is try and see if they can spread disinformation inside here. And it clearly must mean something because they're working so hard on so many different angles, whether it be the mainstream media or hear. They're working hard to make sure that we don't get informed. Well, Q says they're in comms with coordination with necessary divisions. Stay strong, stay together. Now, I want to rememberize you of a previous Q post where Q also mentioned that we will probably get an uptick in presidential tweets. So I have a feeling that we're going to get a lot more comms in regards to that. And of course, I think President Trump came on later and confirmed by saying 5-5 and establishing comms that way just in case. Now, post 1838, we get this, and look, this is some sort of stringer. There could be some sense out of it. Almost looks like it could be a phone number, but I'm not going to spend too much time breaking this down because this stuff it really could be a ton of anything. The only thing that concerns me, obviously, is that if this is a distress signal, clearly there's a lot of danger that we're dealing with here, and so I would just assume that this is probably a signal to someone else. It looks like it could be a stringer, could be going after the people that had hacked the board, which I'm kind of want to think. Let's move on to the next post. We get this on 1839. Packet HDQ, and then this series of numbers here as well too. So like I said, again, sometimes Q is just not talking to us. Now, if you've got something pretty solid on these, go ahead and let me know down below, but I tend to not really get into these too much unless it feels like Q's really trying to bark at us, but I don't really feel that could be the case on these numbers, and that could be completely wrong, but in the past it's kind of been that way. But I would say most certainly keep your thoughts out for the Q team if this truly is a distress signal. But I want to point this out in relations to post 1839 as well as post 1834. You'll notice the timestamp here. Now this would be EST, in which this board is on, which is 11:44:55, and then we go to post 1839, which was posted 1:44:55. So I can't help but think this was a concerted operation to probably catch people using the easy passwords, knowing people were going to jump on these boards, and also knowing that even if they did, Patriots Fight would still be safe, meaning that we'd be able to figure it out like we always do. And whenever people try to get on these boards and try to disprove Q, we always end up clowning them. So it looks like this was an operation. I wouldn't be surprised if these stringers could be maybe seeking out our hackers, and maybe this could be the end of the operation. I'm not really sure. Let me know what you think about the timestamps as well too. Could be some cool serial brain videos coming up about these times. Who knows? But I definitely think that it was by design that we see this being the proper last post. Remember, this would have been the last post on Patriots Fight before these hackers went on. And then once it was resolved, we see this finishing time in relation to the start time. So it could have very well been an operation. And it seems to be confirmed in the next post where Q says, phishing is fun. These people are stupid. Q. Could it be that Q is referring to Forensic Information Scanning Hub? This is criminal investigation software. Could it be that that's what we were fishing for? Q left that password wide open and allowed people to attack foreign and domestic, and they walked right into it. Let me sum it up for you with this. Anon on 8chan gave us a rather crass but fairly accurate flowchart. Be clown, non-stop losing, decide to make coordinated effort, spend weeks planning Q takedown, write out long pay spin sounding like a concerned fag. Oh, 8chan. Prep team clown to cluck loudly, make post, wait in glee, watch your post get shredded by Anons, watch Q team make rapid recovery, realize Anons are awake, realize Q has your location, hear helicopters overhead, poo the bed, stopped. Okay, those are your Q posts. I'm going to leave you with this last story here from earlier, would have been earlier for me today. BipartisanReport.com reported breaking. Deranged airport employee hijacks plane from Seattle SeaTac Airport. According to early reports coming from Twitter, a deranged airport employee at Seattle's SeaTac Airport has stolen a big Horizon turboprop plane and is flying around the airport. Check out some tweets below. Then you can see this guy here says, SeaTac airspace closed, Horizon Q4, and I actually believe it's a Q400, but it's a Q400 prop hijacked by unauthorized person, not a pilot, tower tracking flight, and in contact. Hijacker does not know how to land the plane. Latest update from tower indicates no interest on his part to land the plane. Stay tuned. And let me take you to this one here. This guy, Hilary says, update, it's a customer service agent and he has stolen a big Horizon turboprop. He's not a pilot and does not know how to land the plane. He has buzzed Mount Rainier and the Seattle area. Plane is a Q4, stay tuned. Maybe it is a Q4. I think it's a Q400 though, but I could be wrong. Anyway, so this guy takes this plane out of Seattle. Let me take you down here. This Hilary says again, oh my gosh, update, the guy is threatening to attempt a barrel roll. And Evelyn Kaplan says, airline employee supposedly steals plane, takes it for joyride around the Olympics, doesn't know how to land the plane, gets intercepted by 2 F-15s. What a time to be alive and waiting for your flight to take off. And this one says, airport is on ground halt because evidently a mechanic is flying an other authorized flight seeing trip around the mountains. They won't let anyone leave the airport while he's up there. Pilot said it was the most bizarre thing he'd heard in his career. And then this Dr. Paddock says, latest update, situation at SeaTac resolved. Not sure how, but plane no longer in the air. We are refueling and getting ready to depart when airport reopens. So very, very strange story. Let me show you a quick video that I posted on Twitter earlier.
That is not a drone. That is a real plane. Just did a loop-de-loop. Oh, and there's like a jet.
Yo, I think a plane just crashed into this island right here. And I missed it. But a plane just crashed on this island. And there's jets.
I'm over here at this Twitter page of Jimmy Thompson, Canadian journalist, and Jimmy seems to have logged some of these conversations with the pilot. Now, I'm not sure if these are the exact logs or not. I actually got on the radio, but I was too late to catch any of these. So these very well may be. I'm just going to play you this one right here. Wasn't really planning on landing it. So who knows? Could be just, a very disturbed gentleman who, unfortunately created some really, really poor circumstances for himself. Not really sure, but if anything else pops up regarding the story, I will let you know. All right, that's all I got for you today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me get my message out. And if you are new to my channel, please keep in mind that YouTube will unsubscribe you and unnotify you. So please keep checking back. I post about every 24 to 48 hours. I'm also over here at Twitter at IPOT 1776. That's at IPOT 1776. I'm on Gab. I'm on BitChute. I'm on, what else am I on? Real.Video. And my Patreon link is down below. Still waiting to hear back from PayPal, and that will get set up as well too. All those links, including my email, are down below in the video description. Please check there first before asking. All right, that's all I got for you. This is Sir Patrick Mack, and until next time, stay interested.